It's fun. In a lot of ways, it's fun to have a quarterback competition. At the same time, it's kind of fun to have the guy that you know is going to be the starter, so he can get most of the first group reps, and so you can start building some continuity. When I became quarterback coach, the first thing my wife asked me is, do they have a returning starter? Because it seems like, through 15 years of coaching quarterbacks or whatever, 16 years now, it seems like about half of them we've been trying to figure out who the starter was going to be. And, it's fun to watch the guys compete. It's fun to watch them learn. I'm excited about the abilities that they do have. Who it is or when it happens, they'll determine that. They'll determine that by how they play, how productive they are, how well the team moves when they're in there, and how many points we score. So when it happens and how it happens is up to them.
Do they do all three or all four? Are they working with the ones at times?
At times, yes. Yes, they are. We're trying to get all of them as many reps as we can. And in a lot of ways, because we have four guys and we're trying to figure out who the starter is, a lot of those receivers are tired when the day's over because we have to get a lot of reps to get looks at the quarterbacks. And not just the receivers, but the offensive line, some of the guys on defense, they all have to suck it up and probably get more reps than what they're used to getting in the spring.
With that in mind, excuse me, I know you said obviously you're not going to put a timetable on when you're going to make a final decision, but is it sort of important to, at some point in time, whittle down the candidates a little bit so that, if you've got it down to two or maybe even three, that you're getting to see more of them and you're not asking so much of the receivers to go over and over and over again?
Well, I think ideally, yes. But I think that will happen. As mentioned, they'll sort themselves out. Well, it's not that one guy suddenly emerges as the guy. A lot of times it's you determine a starter by elimination some too.
Sure.
So it may whittle itself down to three, then probably two, and then there will probably be one guy emerge. I have been through it where you had three guys or four guys where one guy was just head and shoulders above. But I think it's going to be a little bit of both processes taking place in determining this guy.
Obviously, you didn't begin as the quarterback's coach when you first got here. When did you first begin to kind of shift into that role and begin looking at those guys and seeing more?
Well, I think having been a quarterback coach and a coordinator as long as I have, even though when I first got here I was just coaching running backs, I'm so used to seeing the big picture that you look at the big picture. And I was excited about the opportunity to coach running backs when Coach Fisher asked me to do that, but I was equally as excited to coach the quarterbacks when he asked me to do that. So I think when I first got here and I'm watching the running backs and learning the offense, I was still kind of learning it from a quarterback mentality. Because a quarterback, coordinator, you got the same kind of big picture mentality of the offense. And once you understand the big picture, then it's a whole lot easier to understand what one position of that group does.
When Coach Fisher first reached out to you, what really drew you to Florida State and to work with Coach Fisher?
Well, I've mentioned several times, Florida State has always been one of the schools that I've always wanted to work at. When I first got married and was first coaching, I remember my wife asked me, and this was one of the four schools in the country, I said I'd love to work at someday. So when that opportunity came along, obviously I was excited about coming to Tallahassee and doing that. I've known Coach Fisher since we were both, two of the youngest coaches in the Southeastern Conference, probably back in '93, '94. We kind of got to know each other at that point. And even though we'd never worked together, we've always kind of stayed in touch and talked at different times. So felt like I knew him pretty well. Obviously, I was excited about the opportunity to come here and opportunity to come work for a guy that you knew and respected at a place that you had such a good feeling about. It was way too good to pass up.
What was that like when you first got here? You couldn't get settled in. The first day you got here, you went out and recruited and had to scramble like that. What was that like, making that quick adjustment?
Well, it was a scramble. There's no question. There were several times my wife had to mail me clothes. She had to explain to me how to wash clothes. I can remember going to the grocery store, going to Walmart and talking to her on the phone for 30 minutes while I'm trying to pick out a mattress pad and do different things like that because I had no clue. That's the reason I got married 24 years ago. Gosh, I probably shouldn't have said that, but. So it was a scramble, but yet at the same time, those scrambles aren't uncommon in this profession. It was a little bit uncommon for me because it's only the second move I've ever made. Unfortunately, I'm starting my really my 25th year of coaching, and I'm at my third spot. So it's been an adjustment, no question.
It's early, but can you see what different things each quarterback brings to the position of the four guys?
No question, no question. The one thing you see with all four of them is they all have the physical skills to be really good, really productive quarterbacks. And you know, that's the first thing you have to have. They've got the talent, got the ability to get it done. Now, once you get past that, it turns into, you know, decision making, leadership, charisma, you know, who does what at the critical times. And sometimes that's one of the harder things about making these determinations is trying to put the guys in critical situations in practice. Because no matter how critical you make it in practice, it's still not like it is, you know, 4th and 8 in the fourth quarter of a game that you got to win. And so you hope you figure out how they respond, and obviously you get a pretty good idea. I haven't done it for this long, but that's one of the hardest things.
We obviously haven't gotten to see a whole lot of Jameis Winston in action, but you've heard a lot of hype all along. As you've gotten to see him and work with him a little bit, obviously I'm sure not necessarily refined completely, but do you see where some of that hype has come from? Do you see him, you know, sort of something special?
Sure. As I was just talking about, the talent and ability he has, he does have unique abilities in a lot of areas. He throws the ball really well. Phenomenal athlete. I mean, to play college football and do what he's doing on the baseball field tells you a little bit about his athletic ability. You know, he seems to learn well. He has a pretty good grasp of the offense already, and to be where he's at after only 1 year is pretty impressive.
Clint's the only guy that's really had any playing experience. Do you see maybe a little bit more of a calm from him being the older guy of the group?
Well, I think all of them have a pretty good understanding of the offense, but obviously Clint understands it better. You know, he's the one you can see when you tell them to play and they get to the line of scrimmage. You know, the gears aren't turning on, or exactly what is everybody doing, or what am I supposed to do? You know, he's heard it enough, done it enough that he's able to do it without having to think about it. And that's the value of reps. That's the reason we're trying to get all four of them as many reps as we can, try to get them to that comfort level.
Two more questions.
Randy, how much have you and Jimbo talked about sort of offensive philosophy, scheme? There's been a lot of discussion because of how much experience you bring as a play caller that maybe you bring some influence to what they want to do offensively. Has there been any discussion about that?
Well, I think one of the things that you just look at the people that Jimbo hired on this staff. I've never been on a staff that has as much experience, you know, calling plays or calling defenses, you know, and I think that speaks highly of him, you know, his security and what he's doing, but the fact that he wants input from everyone. You know, the offense isn't going to change. It's Coach Fisher's offense, but he's also told me a number of times he wants input, you know, and it's my job to provide input and not get my feelings hurt if we don't do it, you know, and to keep providing ideas because you need ideas. Somebody has to make the decision on whether you implement them or not, but everyone needs to put in ideas. Worst thing in the world, having been in that situation, is be on the headsets in a game and say, hey, guys, what do y'all think? Is this thing on? You know, because nobody says anything. You need input, you need ideas. Whether you actually take them or not and implement them is up to you, but it spurs thought, and that's how we all grow.
Kind of along those lines, you touched on a little bit ago about you know, learning as a quarterback and knowing, looking at the big picture. Just kind of walk us through just learning that offense for yourself, kind of sitting down, looking at the playbook for the first time. Obviously, you know, certain things are similar to what you've seen in the past, but just that whole, I guess, experience of kind of flipping through and learning it.
Well, I've told some people, you know, going out on the practice field, it's kind of like, did all you guys take foreign language in high school? Huh? All right, I had 3 years of Spanish in high school, okay? And the words may, you know, you got a word that means red in English, you got a word that means red in Spanish. Well, sitting in the classroom, you can, you know, you learn how to read, and you can kind of you know, you figure out what the sentence is saying and how to respond to it and all those things. But then you turn on a movie in Spanish, and it's going so fast that, you know, you're just picking up words here and there a little bit. And I feel almost like I've gone to Spain. You know, everybody's speaking Spanish. You know, the plays are pretty much the same. You know, pretty much every play we've got, I've run at some point. You know, but it's just learning to speak the same language and really getting comfortable with it. And, you know, that comes with working by me. It comes by, you know, getting coached on it and helped through it, but also just doing it. And I think that's kind of the situation all the coaches are in right now.